The Broncos start the preseason off 0-1, nearly a 1-0 start, if not for a very late surge by David Blau and the Arizona Cardinals to win 18-17. So we're going to break down this game a little bit, but most importantly, I'm going to run through some winners and losers I've got out of this game, along with some injury news and notes to run with it. But before we get to my first winner, make sure you subscribe, because the more subscribers we get, the more content we are able to put out here at the Broncos Breakdown. So if you're looking for a go-to Broncos channel for 2023, hit that sub button down below. Now, let's get into some of the numbers from the 18-17 defeat, which, by the way, this game was just the all-time preseason game. You had a 2-point conversion at the end of the game to win the game. You had a challenge in the first, 3 or 4 minutes of the game. Did not have that on my bingo card. But we also had the Broncos' first-team offense go out there again. It was like Herb Brooks style. Again, Sean Payton just kept sending them out there until they did something. And finally, Russell Wison and the company put up a touchdown, a Jerry Jeudy score. So that kind of leads me into my first winner coming out of this one, and that would be Russell Wison. But he went 7 for 13, 93 yards, and 1 touchdown, and he's kind of a winner. This is a major, depending on where you stand for Russell Wison, you're going to get 2 different types of responses, right? In one way, he went 7 of 13, 93 yards, 1 touchdown. Those aren't bad numbers, especially when you take into account it's preseason. There are going to be some hiccups. That's what the preseason is for. There's nothing to really be too concerned with. But on the other hand, it took him 4 series to try and finally score a touchdown. Not great up against the Arizona Cardinals' second-string defense. So you could look at it one of 2 ways, whether, hey, they scored, that's great, or, hey, probably shouldn't have taken them the 4th series to finally get through, and it was a rocky start to begin. Now, our second winner for this game is the Denver Broncos wide receiver duo between Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton has been looking good so far throughout training camp. He had a great practice the last time they were out at Denver, and he continued that hot play into this one. Jeudy had that drop earlier in the game, but then he rebounded quite nicely. 3 targets, 2 grabs, 40 yards, and a touchdown. And then as for Courtland Sutton, 5 targets, 3 grabs, and 35 yards. So Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy both putting together some pretty strong performances, I would say, altogether. The wide receiver room, Michael Bandy had some nice plays. I think altogether the wide receivers played a pretty sound game. But who was your biggest winner from the Broncos-Cardinals matchup? Are you going to go Russell Wison? You want to go, Jerry Jeudy? Or might it be this next guy we're going to talk about? And that is Nick Bonitto. We have a Nick Bonitto sighting. I remember he had a sack last year, and I think the Cowboys preseason game, which, by the way, remember back then we thought Denver was way ahead of Dallas because of all the penalties the Cowboys had? Oh boy, how wrong we were. But Nick Bonitto, he was great tonight. Unfortunately, he did suffer a hip injury and did not return to the game as a result. But he had 3 tackles, half a sack, 1 QB hit. Nick Bonitto looked like a redshirt freshman who was ready to start his sophomore year. I mean, he looked like someone who put a lot of work in this offseason, and he was not going to be some draft bust in round 2. So shout out to Bonitto. I've definitely been skeptical of him, but it's been great to see Bonitto put together a really strong camp and then had a really good preseason debut. Speaking of injury news, though, DJ Jones was out for the game due to a concussion, or at least he had to go through the concussion protocol. So I believe Jones suffered a concussion last year in the season, if I remember correctly. Not ideal to see anytime, but especially for someone who's got a bit of a concussion history, if I recall correctly. So that's the injury update on DJ Jones. It's a bummer to see. Fingers crossed that it's nothing too serious for him. My fourth winner coming out of this game is a bit of a no-namer, if you will, but he might become a regular name, and that is cornerback Jaquan McMillian. So, all-time name, first off. But he put together some really nice stats and some really nice plays out of this game. 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, even had a sack to go along with it. He is a UDFA cornerback from, I believe, last year. But the point being is he started off on the depth chart, second string, which kind of surprised me. Now, no Riley Moss, so that gives other corners an opportunity to move up the depth chart a little bit. but he's making the most of his opportunities. So he could definitely contend for a spot on the 53-man roster, and the rate he's playing, he's probably going to make the 53-man roster. So really cool to see for a former UDFA. Final winner I've got coming out of this game is another cornerback, Isang Bassi. He had the interception of the game and special teams play as well. And speaking of special teams, that's going to be some nice foreshadowing for our losers out of this game. But at least Bassi was a winner on Mike Westhoff and Ben Kotwika's special teams unit. But Bassi, he had some nice plays on the field. I want to reward him for that. He is a winner in my book. Now, our loser. So, Jarrett Stidham, yikes. Denver gave him a 2-year, $10 million contract, which for a backup is a good chunk of change for someone who doesn't have a ton of NFL experience. And Stidham against the Cardinals, 5 of 15, 50 yards, and 1 touchdown. 1 interception. So, I wish it was a touchdown. Not good, right? We can all agree. Not ideal. And it's just the preseason. People make, myself included, way too big of a deal out of preseason storylines, and then the regular season rolls around, and hopefully we don't see Jarrett Stidham ever again in the regular season, but we got to call how it is, and it was not a good preseason game for the former Auburn Tiger. The offensive line, not great. They didn't have all their starters out there, but Garrett Bowles, he got beat for a sack on a play. You can't, in the preseason, get beat for a sack on a play if you are a Pro Bowl left tackle. That's just not when you get beat by, a second-string defensive end or whatever. So I think for Bowles and the rest of this offensive line, they still have a ways to go. They do not have Mike McGlinchey out there. He's still dealing with that knee sprain. But this offensive line last year was, in a lot of ways, this team's biggest Achilles heel. It brought down the quarterback play, and it led to an awful, just tidal wave of crap. And it has to start up front. So the offensive line, they have a lot of work to do still. And now we get to maybe the biggest loser of all, and that's kind of us, the viewers. We might have an issue right now. The kickers were not good. Brett Maher, who was really good in the regular season last year and then got the postseason yips, he brought the yips with him to 2023. He was 0 for 2. He had a field goal block, which is on Brett Maher, but also if Luke Wattenberg doesn't get flattened like a pancake, that might not get blocked. And so if you're Maher, it's like, hey, could you guys hold the block for 1.5 seconds and then the kick is off and away and you can get steamrolled all you want. But Maher at the end of the day went 0 for 2. He made 1 extra point. And Elliott Fry wasn't much better. Fry went 1 for 2. So both kickers had some misses and had a make. But all in all, it was not a great day for the special teams unit, which we talked about the offensive line last year sucking. The special teams unit was by far the worst part of the 2022 Broncos, and there was a lot wrong last year. And that really speaks volume to how bad special teams was. So it's not off to a good start so far in the preseason, but the good news is it's the preseason. So let me know, is Denver's Week 1 kicker currently on the roster? Are we going to have FOMO over Brandon McManus? Maybe wasn't the best. He was not great last year, let's be honest. The numbers speak for themselves. There was some money to be saved, but also I'd rather spend an extra $2 million on a kicker that does better than Brett Maher and Elliott Fry did today. So maybe that's a move we wish we'd go back in time and undo, because there is something to, I remember Daniel Carlson with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Minnesota Vikings moved on from him after one bad game against the Packers. That was a mistake. And the Bears moved on from Robbie Gould after one bad season. And then Robbie Gould went on to have a lot of good seasons in the Bay Area. That was a mistake. I wonder if Brandon McManus might be that next big kicker mistake. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Hey, if you enjoyed today's show, well, consider subscribing down below. We're going to keep you guys up to speed on all things Broncos all year long. But we need more subscribers. That way we can get more studio space, and then we can get out more content to everyone watching.